If you're using furthermore at the start of every other sentence, you're not impressing your examiner. You're annoying them. Connectors are worth marks in IELTS, but using them badly costs you marks. And the frustrating thing? Most students don't realize they're doing it wrong. Let me show you how to fix that. This video is for IELTS students and business writers who want to use linking words properly, not just scatter them around and hope for the best. By the end of this, you'll know the main categories of connectors, the most common mistakes people make, and exactly how to correct them. There's also a short practice exercise at the end, which I'd encourage you to actually do. I'm RichardG.xyz. If you want feedback on your actual writing, not just videos, I run a daily coaching program. The link is on the screen and in the description. For now, let's just get into it. So what is it that connectors actually do? A connector, you'll also hear it called a linking word or a cohesive device, is a word or a phrase that shows the relationship between two ideas. Are you adding information, contrasting two points, explaining a cause? A connector signals that to your reader. It's not decoration, it's information. In IELTS writing, connectors directly affect your coherence and cohesion score. That's 25% of your writing mark. In speaking, they contribute to your fluency and coherence score. So this is not a small thing. The problem is not that students avoid connectors. The problem is overuse, misuse, and repetition. Using however 5 times in one essay doesn't show range, it shows a habit. So let me give you the main groups and what each one does. Addition. Furthermore, in addition, moreover, also, what is more. These add a new point that supports the same direction as your previous one. Contrast. However, nonetheless, on the other hand, despite this, although, these signal that something goes against what you just said. Then there's cause and effect. Therefore, as a result, consequently, this leads to, owing to. These show that one thing produced another. Illustration. For example, for instance, such as to illustrate. These introduce evidence or examples. Concession. Admittedly, granted, while it is true that, these acknowledge the other side before you continue your own argument. Conclusion. Overall, to summarize, on balance, these wrap things up. Here's the key point. Each group has its own logic. You can't simply swap one group for another and expect the meaning to hold. Therefore, signals a result. However, signals a contrast. Mix those up and your argument falls apart. The rules that actually matter. Rule 1. Match the connector to the relationship between ideas. Before you write a connector, ask yourself, what is the logical connection here? If the answer is contrast, use a contrast connector. If there's no strong logical link, don't force one in. Rule 2. Vary your connectors. Examiners notice repetition. If you've already used however, reach for nonetheless or on the other hand next time. Same job, different word. Rule 3. And this is where a lot of marks quietly disappear. Watch your punctuation. However, therefore, and moreover are adverbs. They are not conjunctions, and that means you cannot use them to join two independent clauses with just a comma. Look at this sentence. The city has good transportation links. However, the housing is expensive. That comma before however, that's a comma splice. It's a grammar error and it will cost you marks. Here's how to fix it. 2 options. Option 1. The city has good transport links. However, the housing is expensive. Full stop. New sentence. However gets its own sentence. Option 2. The city has good transport links. However, the housing is expensive. Semicolon before, comma after. Both correct. A comma alone, never correct with these words. Rule 4. Don't open every sentence with a connector. Over signposting reads as mechanical. Let some sentences flow naturally from the previous one without any connector at all. Let me show you the difference between weak and strong connector use with a real example. Here's a weak paragraph from an IELTS Task 2 essay on remote working. Remote working has many benefits. Furthermore, employees save time on commuting. Furthermore, they have more flexibility. However, there are disadvantages. Furthermore, communication can suffer. The ideas are there, but the connectors are doing all the wrong work. Furthermore, 3 times, and it's being used where it doesn't even belong. Here's the same paragraph revised. Remote working offers genuine advantages. Employees save time on commuting and gain greater flexibility in managing their day. That said, it is not without drawbacks. Communication between team members can suffer when face-to-face interaction is removed. Notice what changed. Fewer connectors, not more. That said does a clean job of introducing the contrast. The rest of the logic is carried by sentence structure, not signposting. Now, a quick business writing example. Weak. Sales figures declined in Q3, moreover, the team missed its targets. There's 2 problems there. The comma splice, we've covered that. But also, moreover signals addition. It says, here's another separate point. But missing targets because of declining sales isn't a separate point. It's a result. A stronger version? Sales figures declined in Q3. As a result, the team missed its quarterly targets. As a result is the honest connector. It says exactly what's happening. That's the whole skill, really. Match the connector to the actual relationship, not the one that sounds impressive, the one that's true. Here are a few fill-in-the-blank questions to test yourself. 1. The new policy reduces costs. Blank. It has led to lower staff morale. Should you use furthermore, however, or as a result? Question 2. Many young people move to cities for work. Blank. Urban populations have grown significantly. Should you use nevertheless, consequently, or although? Number 3. Blank, the training was expensive. It produced measurable improvements in performance. Should we use despite, although, or furthermore? Think about the logical relationship first, then pick the connector. Don't just go with the one that sounds formal. Here's a phrase I want you to add to your vocabulary. That said. This is a B2 level phrase that's very natural in both writing and speaking. It introduces a contrast. It works like however, but it feels more like real English and less like a textbook. For example, the location is inconvenient. That said, the rent is very affordable. It's a great connector for IELTS speaking because it sounds like a real person talking, not someone who memorized a list of linking words. So here's a quick recap before you go. Connectors show logical relationships between ideas, so match the connector to the relationship, not to what sounds impressive. Vary your connectors. Repetition signals limited range to an examiner. And watch your punctuation. However, therefore, and moreover need either a full stop or a semicolon before them, not just a comma. Finally, fewer connectors used well will always beat more connectors used badly. If you want a real coach reading your actual sentences and telling you what's working and what isn't, that's what daily coaching is for. You can get a free English assessment at richardg.xyz/free trial class to find out what to fix first. The link is in the description. Give the practice questions another look, then think about the logical relationships, and I'll see you in the next one.